Hi everyone, welcome to another MA hosted by the Thales crew. Today in the MA we have the pleasure to welcome Tex from Olympus and Kassandra from Gelato. Your host for this MA will be D Monkey, lead growth from Thales, and Padzank, lead strategist from Thales as well. Sit back and hope you enjoy.
Our guests today are Tex from Olympus Pro and Kassandra from Gelato. So we welcome you both, and you can guys introduce yourself if you want. Welcome, Tex and Kassandra.
Awesome, thanks a lot, D. I'm Tex from Olympus now. I'm the product lead for Olympus Pro and formerly head of biz dev. So yeah, really happy to be here demoing Olympus Pro for you guys.
Awesome, sir. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm
Yes.
Pads. You all know me, like I'm a strategy lead at Thales, and yeah, really happy to be here and go over this Olympus Pro integration with our beloved community.
I guess Kassandra is still having some technical issues with this, so maybe Pads, while I'll try to help her solve this. Can you just go along with the introduction of what you had prepared
Yep.
for the context of this meeting?
Sure. So yeah, I will provide some context about everything that happened from Thales side and how we integrated first with Gelato using the G-UNI framework, and then with Olympus Pro while using that like integrated G-UNI framework. So yeah, as you all probably already know, we migrated to Optimism earlier this year, and we migrated like every contract token wise from staking and everything, and then we started looking for solutions to how to build a liquidity on L2 and how to distance away from the old token contract from L1. And as we are in a super early stage of Optimism, the only like viable solution right now is provided by our good dear friends from Gelato, and they deploy the G-UNI framework on Optimism. And what G-UNI framework allows is to kind of wrap Uniswap v3 liquidity positions into fungible ERC20 tokens. So you can have like ERC20 LP tokens representing Uniswap v3 liquidity, and then we could use those LP tokens to set up a contract where liquidity providers can stake their LP tokens and earn some Thales token incentive. So that was like a first step towards building liquidity on L2. And yeah, so far we have like approximately just above 1 million of total value locked. So it's going pretty well, I can say. And yeah, and as we all know, like the classic like yield farming approach has its benefits and has its downsides. Like having the clear having like LP staking can build up liquidity pretty quick, but that liquidity is not sticky, so to say, and secure, and is at the mercy of LP token stakers and their own will they ever like withdraw liquidity or whatever. And it also depends on if the rewards are lucrative enough for people to provide liquidity. So then we start talking to Olympus Pro, and they inform us that they will be soon launching on Optimism. And then we decided that it's a good time to try and launch our own Olympus Pro bond system using the same Thales wrapped ETH G-UNI LP tokens, and slowly start gathering protocol on liquidity from like liquidity providers, and that way we can like secure somehow like the liquidity of Thales token on L2. And yeah, that's exactly like what happened, and I hope I provided like a brief, like solid context on how this integration flow worked. And yeah, so for Tex and Kassandra,
yeah. Let's see if Kassandra can speak now. Kassandra, can you try now? Okay, I guess we still have it. So Pat, just continue with some questions, and we aimed the first one to Tex, and we'll try to fix this.
Yeah, sure, no issues. Like, it's not a true like community call or AMA without some technical issues, right?
So, yes, of course.
So yeah, like I will like to kind of introduce Olympus Pro and all the intricacies there. I will like ask Tex, can he like briefly explain how does exactly Olympus Pro work, what exactly are bonds, and how the projects integrating with Olympus Pro benefit from those said bond system.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe a good way we can have this discussion is also I'll share my screen real quick so that way we can kind of have a few things up while we're discussing. Let me try this real quick. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yes, on my side.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I'm here, by the way, now. Finally, Kassandra. Sorry.
Awesome. Nice. Oh, before you continue, Tex, Kassandra, can you please give us an introduction of yourself?
Yep. So I'm a developer at Gelato, mostly focused on smart contracts and integrations, and for the last year, actually just been the lead dev on this G-UNI project, so manning the ship there. Started working on that just before Uniswap v3 even launched when the white paper was out. So since then, I've been all G-UNI.
Awesome, cool, and nice to have you with us and be able to hear you now. So everything works, and as Pat said, there's no community call without technical errors, right?
Yep. It was me this time, sorry guys, but I'm here now.
Yeah. No worries. We're happy. Okay, Tex, sorry for cutting you off. You can continue now.
No, all good. So basically, as you mentioned, Thales is running a liquidity mining program for LP staking. And so just kind of navigating to the Thales page here, you can kind of see there's LP staking. So we'll pop over to it. And so right now, as Pads mentioned, there's around 950K of liquidity in G-UNI tokens, earning 189% APR. And so a lot of the community is locked in here staking. So the difference with staking rewards versus bonds is that essentially the Olympus bond program allows you to supplement an LP staking program where the protocol actually gets protocol-owned liquidity in exchange for the incentives it's running. So the current staking page here at 189% APR is to incentivize community members to lock up their LP and provide this layer of liquidity. And so now we can kind of go over to the Olympus Pro bond marketplace. And currently on Optimism, Thales is our initial launch partner, and hoping to add some other partners here as well in the near future. The difference being that in this model, you basically bond your G-UNI tokens to Thales for the Thales token at a discount. So as you can see right here, the market value of Thales is 0.67 cents, whereas the bond is currently paying out 0.64 cents, or 64 cents, sorry. So you're actually getting a 5% ROI by bonding your G-UNI tokens to the protocol at some vesting period. So I think I can walk through actually purchasing a bond live on the call if you guys like.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, so I'll navigate over to Uniswap and actually purchase 0.05 because I'm low wallet balance on this particular account. So apologies for just being a small bags holder here, but I'll go ahead and purchase 0.05 ETH worth of Thales.
My favorite step of the presentation.
Uh-oh. All right, 1 second.
Well, we wait. We have some short questions. Like Ramsey is asking, what is linear vesting? And if yield farming with LP tokens, like if we can give a quick answer.
Yeah, the linear vesting, and we'll show it here when we go to bond, but essentially this is another limitation of the push to talk thing. I'll have to pop off every time I click. But right now, for example, when you actually go to purchase this 5% discounted bond, the Thales that you get in return will vest over the course of 14 days. So now that I should have Thales in my wallet, I'm going to navigate over to Gelato. And the Thales ETH pool here, I'm going to go ahead and add liquidity.
Oh yeah, so they don't auto-wrap at the moment, and I think you need like wrapped ETH also.
Yeah, you gotta wrap your ETH on Uniswap. Sadly, a feature much desired by many users, still not on the UI.
Luckily, Optimism is super fast and cheap, so these steps are kind of like
it's not
chill.
so bad on Optimism. On mainnet, it's a bit more. We get more complaints.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the G-UNI framework later on and all the possibilities there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a really great thing that you guys made the decision to launch on Optimism because, yeah, all of this is so much cheaper and better user experience given the low gas fee environment.
Yeah, and
for sure.
Is there a Uni v2 fork on Optimism even? I don't even know. So
Is it Zip Swap?
Yeah, that's
that's
the only one I know so far. There might be a few others, but yeah.
Yeah, nothing major though, so it's interesting that I think maybe Uni v3 might be even more dominant on Optimism than on other chains.
Cool. So now that I have my G-UNI token, I'm going to go ahead and purchase a bond. And note that it's at a 5% ROI. And this number will actually change. It'll kind of demonstrate how the bonds actually work. So I'm just going to approve the bond contract.
Yeah. So he's basically giving away his G-UNI LP tokens that represent his provided liquidity for vested and discounted Thales.
Yes. So essentially, if I had the underlying dollar amount of Thales ETH in G-UNI right now, and I went to go purchase Thales at market price, you would be, running into slippage. Whereas by purchasing a bond, you're actually getting a 5% discount. It's offering you, the user, a better deal on the Thales you're receiving in exchange for these tokens, while also transferring the tokens to the protocol. So Thales will now own this G-UNI token and help support liquidity for the protocol. And so just before you confirm it, I would suggest when you go to bonds, just take note of the maximum bond size in order to balance the amount of emissions that Thales is looking at over the first month's pilot program. A maximum purchase amount is 7,800 Thales. You can kind of double check the price assumptions for the Thales ETH G-UNI token and the amount of Thales that I'm getting in return, as well. Make sure it lines up with the 5% ROI. And the linear vesting means that in 14 days, I can claim my full Thales payout of 416 Thales, or you can split that into as many smaller claims linearly over that time. So, in 7 days, I could claim 208. You could claim daily. It really depends, but there are kind of games you can play with when you claim. So I'll go ahead and confirm the transaction. And then we have our little success screen here. Basically shows that you captured the discount that was advertised, your incoming bond, and then this is actually stored on the page for you. So for example, it's basically telling me that in 14 days, this is the amount I can claim. And I think, let me refresh the page real quick. So now if we notice that 5.09% discount that I received on the Thales G-UNI that I bonded, the ROI is actually lower now. And that's how these bonds work, where it's like a Dutch auction mechanism, where this ROI will continue decreasing if no users purchase. But once a user does purchase, it actually pushes that discount back closer to market price. So it does rely a lot on community members participating in the bond program, and it will allow participants to stack their Thales tokens quicker than if they were just staking. And maybe one small note on that, which is a good mental model for community members. You can basically take the APR rate here for LP staking and estimate what it would be over the course of the 2-week vesting period. So 189%, and then figure out the weekly rate times 2. So roughly the APR that you would get for LP staking in that time period would be about 7.27%. So in general, that would be the way to mentally model it. And there are some other aspects to consider as well.
And what I like is that it's such a fluid system that as if you LP staking is more lucrative, you stake there, and as more and more people provide liquidity on the LP staking contract, the APR drops, and then if you catch a significant discount over time, then you can use those same G-UNI LP tokens, just withdraw them from the staking contract and just use them as bonds, and there are a few nice gamified ways for you to kind of increase your maximize your Thales token holding, so to say. But yeah, we'll talk about those benefits for the users a little later on. So yeah, thank you, Tex, for this nice little demo of how to use the bond system.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Yes, thank you, sir. Really appreciate it and very illustrative.
Yeah.
Not sure if okay, so I will ask Tex the second question from us to kind of introduce also to the community what are all the benefits that liquidity providers have to bond their Thales and Thales wrapped ETH LP tokens. Besides the obvious main benefit, the discount, what are the benefits when compared to classic yield farming?
Yeah, so there is the benefit of being able to get a higher return on your bond than on staking. It does require a little bit more attention to how the program is doing. At what time of day does the discount reach a level? These are all kind of things that it requires a little bit more effort. But some of the ways you can gamify it, for example, is during the 14-day vesting, you could choose to claim, half of your payout 7 days in, deposit with ETH, and then stake on the protocol side. And so you'll essentially be earning twice. So you can claim some of your payout tokens, continue staking in the LP staking module, and basically have your ROI plus the staking rewards. So there's a lot of ways that you can optimize it as a user to make sure that you're getting the highest amount of Thales rewards possible. And then there are also some benefits from the protocol side.
Yeah, and along the way, you support the protocol by giving away the LP tokens, so they are more secure and not reliant that much and not at risk from the so-called like mercenary liquidity farmers and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty neat little system.
Yeah, and speaking about LP tokens, I think it is a perfect moment to just give the pass for a few questions to Kassandra that you had, Pats.
Yeah, so all these intricacies rely on G-UNI LP tokens that we used and that are wrapped Uniswap v3, like wrapped in an ERC24 like LP tokens. And so yeah, so if you could briefly explain what exactly is the G-UNI framework from Gelato, and what are the introduced like feature and benefits from that like framework, and how do users and integrating projects benefit from it?
Yeah, all great questions. So I think G-UNI is basically about creating a fungible wrapper around Uniswap v3 position. Any generic Uniswap v3 position could be instantiated instead of as a normal position as a G-UNI pool, and this basically creates a smart contract which controls the position, and it becomes kind of like a public Uniswap v3 position. Anyone can add liquidity in, and they will get their share of the fees earned by that position, and they'll get back a fungible token. Why fungible? Because each share of this liquidity position is fungible with any other share of the position. And so having fungible LP tokens is really useful for a number of reasons, which we're going to get into for a second. But the last piece is that there's also the ability for this position to now be managed automatically. So under the hood, fees earned are harvested intermittently by Gelato network, which is an automation network. And so the automation happening in the background by default is just that as fees are earned, those fees are harvested and put back into the position in the range which was already specified. So the Gelato bots in this case can only just reinvest the fees. They can't manipulate the ranges at all. Now, there's also this special manager role for each G-UNI pool, and this is where it gets quite interesting, where you could have these dynamic G-UNI pools as the manager is the only account, the privileged account, which is allowed to actually change the ranges. So remove the liquidity and redeposit the liquidity in a new range. Sometimes this can be very flexibly handled. The manager role can be burned to have an entirely immutable position, which can never change. It can be held by the team itself, or by a DAO, so that it's time-locked executions that need to be voted on if you actually want to change the liquidity. And finally, what we're most excited about, but is more down the road, is that this manager could be passed to some sort of automated smart contract so that Gelato bots could automatically execute some rebalancing strategy. So there's a lot of interesting edge cases, mainly about what makes these strategies profitable or not, which is why mostly we focus on wider fixed ranges and just this composability and fungibility aspect that we bring to Uniswap v3. Why is that useful? Is because most DeFi applications are used to LP being understood as like having a fungible LP token. So classical liquidity mining. This is easiest to do in like a synthetic style staking rewards contract, and this would expect your LP token to be fungible or as collateral in lending and borrowing markets. This is usually only supports fungible tokens as collateral, and so all of these use cases get more complex. For these protocols, if they want to integrate with UniV3, and we basically simplify that, make that issue go away, because now that it's fungible, it can be used as collateral or used in liquidity mining with the classical paradigms. And the last thing is, like, what I find interesting is that now you're actually holding, it's a bit of an abstraction from Uniswap v2, though you can replicate completely the Uniswap v2 experience if you place a full range G-UNI pool, because you have the automation, auto compounding the fees, which happens by definition in Uniswap v2. You have a full range position, and everyone's holding a fungible LP token. So it's basically Uniswap v2 on top of Uniswap v3. But you can also now have these hold an ERC20 LP token, which is actually exposing you to a specific strategy, right? To this specific range for now, but it could also be a specific dynamic strategy that, who knows, follows the market price by plus 10% and minus 10% and constantly rebalances daily to keep a range like this. The thing is, a naive strategy like this probably, again, the issue is what would likely not be very profitable because of impermanent loss, which is why we mostly focus on either highly correlated assets or have more conservative ranges for now until we can get out some strategies which are better for highly concentrated liquidity but can hedge against the impermanent loss in different ways.
Yeah, pretty cutting edge stuff. And yeah, so Thales took a route to use the G-UNI framework to simulate the Uniswap v3, as in we don't have a manager role, and we use the G-UNI framework to have like a full range liquidity pool that is fungible with G-UNI LP tokens. And yeah, that is what G-UNI framework allowed us to do. And yeah, since like the Uniswap v3 is the most dominant like exchange on Optimism, it made sense for us to take this route. But yeah, like as you said, like still in development, but really like exciting to think about is how these automated strategies will look further down the road. And just to connect all the dots here, so to say, like, can you like speak on all the new possibilities introduced by using these G-UNI LP tokens as Olympus Pro bonds, especially when you take into account all the strategies that are possible like down the road?
Yeah. So what I think is really exciting, so another use case that we're really excited about, of course, not just collateral and liquidity mining, but of course, Olympus Pro bonding also assumes you need an ERC20 token, so mostly working with Uniswap v2 style dexes. And so for them to get exposure to Uniswap v3, same idea, G-UNI can help just by making the position fungible. But what we really found quite exciting here is that you have all these new possibilities because of the fact of Uniswap v3's concentrated liquidity in terms of how a team might want to do the bonding. Because you get to place the G-UNI position. This could be the same for liquidity mining too, but let's just talk about protocol-owned liquidity for now. Since you get to place the G-UNI position, you can, based on the current market price, place a position that's not necessarily centered around the current market price. So it could be 70% ETH and 30% your project's token, for instance. Or it could, I mean, I don't know this is why you do this, but you could even have a completely out of range that's entirely one asset, which would still be LP inside the pool, but currently right now is this out of range. So this flexibility is quite interesting. For instance, imagine that you're a project like maybe Thales. You guys already have a lot of Thales tokens, so providing liquidity on the Thales side of the market wouldn't be so difficult to get some liquidity on that side. It's more on the ETH side where you're hoping to build up more robust liquidity from the community, and so this can be done by having a pool which, based on current prices, a G-UNI pool which is slightly weighted towards the ETH side. And so now you're building up more ETH liquidity than you are Thales, and you can somehow compensate for that, like I say, because the team has a treasury and can deploy some more liquidity on the Thales side. And so these options give teams a lot more flexibility in terms of what is being bonded, right? In Uniswap v2, the LP token is always by definition 50-50. Here you can have any range you like, and thus any concentration or any proportion of the two tokens that you'd like to have. So I think this is quite exciting already in terms of how projects could use G-UNI to have protocol-owned liquidity and build up liquidity basically in the areas where you want it most. And this is what G-UNI allows in general. Same for liquidity mining, right? Now, instead of, if you use, like, there is a way to do liquidity mining with the NFT, but this usually only incentivizes in-range liquidity. But G-UNI can incentivize target ranges. So again, maybe you want to set up a buy wall and you want to incentivize this buy wall for some reason. You can do this with G-UNI and you can't do this with other stuff. So I think there's a lot of power here in the flexibility it gives projects in terms of where they want to deploy liquidity and what liquidity they want to incentivize in what range.
Yeah, took like on-chain market making possibilities to a whole other level. So, but yeah, like it's
pretty interesting.
It's really impossible to see like what are all the possibilities introduced with these new like frameworks, which are like G-UNI, like fungible ranges and all the strategies on top, and introducing like them to Olympus Pro bonds and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the sky is the limit, so to say. So yeah, thank you very much for clarifying the G-UNI to our community. And yeah, so I think it's time for some community questions. I think we can start. Right?
Yes. Yeah, we can start reading some community questions. I have one from Eddie Trash. Will auto compound work if you just only stake? I don't know if you can get that question from without context, or do you need any more context? Will auto compound work if you just only stake?
I think I understand. But yeah, the auto compounding is happening under the hood. So it doesn't matter if you stake or you don't stake your G-UNI token. The auto compounding is happening. Even if you're holding your G-UNI token, they don't need to be held in order for the auto compounding in the background to happen. So it doesn't make a difference, staked or unstaked. What you do with your G-UNI, you're always holding a token, which exposes you to the pool, and the pool is auto compounding all the fees on behalf of all the token holders.
Perfect. That's clear. That's clear. Eddie Trash, that's your answer. We're going up reviewing. Ramsey asked how claiming bond reward will work. I think that's more for you, Tex. Like how's the claiming bond reward will work? Do you claim at the end? It's on the UI, maybe.
Yeah. So that is actually in the UI, kind of where I showed, and I can share my screen again to kind of just show where it pops up on the interface. 1 second.
Yes, that would be awesome, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, cool. Let me switch over to Optimism real quick. Just as a note, this is our page for our Ethereum mainnet partners. So kind of and this is kind of like the range of what you see from different partners, where I would anticipate that these particular bonds up in the 10% range will probably get bought in the near future. Whereas ones that have been purchased recently, have a negative ROI. So this is also important to note. When this says negative and is red, just as a heads up to folks on the call, because Thales is the only bond. So just know that when it says negative ROI, you would actually be purchasing at a premium, similar to down here, the market price of Thor is 41 cents, but the bond price is actually 46 cents. So pay attention to the negative ROIs and don't get wrecked here. But let me switch over to Optimism real quick. So as you can see, the the bond purchase that I demoed earlier, it actually shows my claimable amount versus pending. And then the vesting time is going to be over the next 14 days. And so in that time, this is a good demonstration of linear vesting where, just in the past 20 minutes, I already have 0.37 Thales to claim, and you can claim this amount at any time by just hitting the claim button.
Yeah, and since we are on Optimism, there is most of the people don't need to take gas cost into account and can claim much more often than you could feasibly do on L1.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge benefit.
Oh, now just to make use of you sharing the screen. Oh, you closed. No worries. But the next question, maybe it's kind of related. Like there are some questions from Mr. Breakout, part of Thales Council. He wrote some questions, and the first one is, will you please explain max token purchase limit for each wallet for each bond? Like, does the max limit fluctuate depending on some conditions, or it is a fixed value? And what are the default parameters for max token purchase limit for each bond?
Yes, so the max purchase that you can do is right here in the bond screen. And so it's 7,800 Thales. This is actually controlled by the protocol. So when you actually navigate to the bond contract, which you can, it's pretty cool. The Optimism, block explorer is pretty solid. So navigating over here, you can actually see the contract itself, as well as some of the parameters. And under read contract, the max payout is right here. So this is where we're getting 7,800 Thales payout from, with the crazy number of decimals that you normally get. But importantly, this max payout, over the course of the bond program, if as a community, the protocol decides to increase the bond program, like increase the cadence, you can actually increase this max payout where the target is selling one max bond per day. And so this 7,800 Thales payout is a reflection of, give me one second. I think it's a reflection of having allocated roughly 220K Thales for the first 4 weeks of the program.
Awesome answer. Like it's pretty clear, and I think we can jump to the second question from Mr. Breakout. He wrote 3. Like, is it possible to sell your bond later on before the maturity date if you need to liquidate your position urgently?
So this is a feature that we've been considering for basically wrapping bond positions. It's not currently available given the existing OP architecture. This vesting period does lock your bond purchase in at that time. You can't actually offload your position once you enter it.
Okay, perfect. And just the last question from Mr. Breakout. Is there any additional benefits for bond buyers in terms of token or else? I don't know if that else is menacing or whatever, but that's the question.
No, so the token actually doesn't really factor into OP bonds at all, other than that the fee which Olympus takes on each bond program, which is a 3.3% fee, is actually directed back towards supporting the intrinsic value of the token itself. So, if you look at basically this close to $1,500 worth of TBV so far, there's about $45 worth of Thales that's actually supporting the intrinsic value of as a reserve currency for DeFi.
Perfect. Makes perfect sense. And okay, now, and I think this is one of the last questions that we have from one of our community members, JRef. He's asking, it's kind of long, but I'm gonna read it anyway. I'm subject to some impermanent loss of my LP position as price of Thales has dropped faster than ETH. However, I believe price of Thales will increase soon and faster than it's. But if I sell off my LP position now for bonds, I will be realizing the impermanent loss, right? That's the question.
That is an interesting observation. So let me think this through. So basically, if you anticipate that Thales is going to appreciate in the near future, the question is, would you be better off holding the Thales ETH LP position, or would you be better off holding Thales on its own? So the same aspect that created this IL gap, if you expect it to appreciate, you are realizing that loss since you deposited LP initially, but you would actually realize the gains of holding just 100% Thales much quicker by bonding that liquidity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, and obviously it's something that it needs to be evaluated by any user or staker or holder in a case-by-case basis. As you say, Tex, there are a lot of intricacies in here, like for people that are really on the lookout for good discounts and this kind of stuff. So there are layers of strategy in here, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, and also one of the other things that I think might be worth mentioning at this point is this is kind of, I think so far we've been discussing a bond program as kind of a novel way for Thales to acquire liquidity. I think it might be worth discussing maybe the end goal, and that's I think when you look at some of the token price decline recently, I think it is as a result of having very high APRs on staking, where a lot of protocols across DeFi are looking at liquidity mining, Pool 2 specifically, as an ongoing cost, but acquiring your own liquidity positions with these G-UNI tokens will eventually allow Thales to taper those LM rewards. And when you actually reduce emissions in that way, it helps support token price appreciation as you kind of decrease the amount of tokens which are being injected into the market.
Perfect. Makes sense. Thank you for that, Tex. And I'm asking the community in the chat if they have any more questions. I have asked pretty much everything. Ramsey say from his side no. Thanks for the MA. Pat or any other core contributor, or maybe someone from the Thales Council, if you have any other questions or something that you want to share, mainly questions. This is the time. Don't be shy now, guys.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that this deployment, and this is around a month. This program will run in these terms for a month, after which the Thales Council will reevaluate everything, and just want to point out that this is a first step towards exploring making a balance between LP staking and Olympus Pro bonds as a means to accrue protocol on liquidity. So yeah, it's a fluid system and needs some attention, but it is a good step towards, I can say, a bright future where we slowly balance out the emissions and the protocol on liquidity, so to say. So yeah, pretty excited to see where this goes,
Yeah, I agree with you, Pat. I see Tex answering in the chat already what's being asked. So that's all. Thank you, sir.
And it's so cool that it's all made possible by having these DeFi Legos such as G-UNI framework that allows us to have fungible Uniswap V3 liquidity, and having Olympus Pro as a framework that allows us to kind of award people to give us their own liquidity to the protocol. and stuff like that. So yeah, like what can I say? We love those types of like relations, and it's pretty cool to see it in action, you know.
Yeah, I'm also very excited about the idea that you're doing both in tandem, the liquidity mining and the bonding. This is something that's new to me. Maybe it's been Tex, you probably have seen it before, but I think it would be quite interesting. I've heard of people doing one and or the other, but never the two at the same time. So it should be interesting to see the result.
Yeah, we're pretty excited for it, and this is definitely, as Pat said, like integrating and also like being in the talk with other projects. It shows us that we are not alone in this, and that many things are kind of tied together, and we can build interesting things like if we put our effort together. I want to give the word to just Kassandra or Tex, if you have any final words or anything that you want to share in this AMA, like, because I'm not seeing more questions, just people thanking you for the answer and for your time. So if you have anything that you want to close and share, this is the moment, guys.
I think just for users who are wanting to purchase bonds via Olympus Pro, I would encourage people to join the Olympus Discord server. We have an Olympus Pro channel, and if you run into any issues via bonds, any questions, feel free to reach out there, DM me directly. Definitely want to kind of have that open line of communication for people if they need anything else in the future. So other than that, just thanks a lot for having us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so on my end, nothing much to say. Definitely G-UNI is on the UI side, can be rough around the edges, so let us know if you're having any issues there. And watch out for future announcements, because some really exciting stuff about G-UNI's development coming soon.
Awesome. Thanks to both of you. I just shared both the Discord invites to Olympus and to Gelato in the chat. And yeah, what else to say, that we really appreciate your time and being integrated with you. And it's, I don't know, it's been a pleasure to just hear your answer. And obviously the walkthrough with the screen share was just the cherry on top. So thanks a lot. I think with this we can just keep this for finish. Pat, any final comments?
Yeah, like I just want to point out that it was really a pleasure, like integrating both with G-UNI and the Olympus Pro crew. Like everything was like super chill and streamlined, and it's really a pleasure to kind of integrate with you guys. And thank you for joining us for this AMA and helping out the community to kind of learn the ropes around the whole intricacies.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, guys.
Yep, thank you. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, this is the end of the AMA. Thanks everyone. Thanks for the community that joined, and to all that asked questions. We really thank you from the heart.
Thank you guys for tuning in into another episode hosted by the Thales crew. Hopefully you have a better understanding of the Gelato pools and the Olympus bonds. If you have any question regarding those, please follow us on Twitter or join our Discord. It'll be our pleasure to help you there. In the meantime, have a good day, guys.